Unbelievable day, hidden love revealed as twin girls transform a stranded woman into their mom. The rain pounded against the pavement, each drop echoing the weight in Lisa's heart. Living in a weathered suburb in Minnesota, she was no stranger to struggles, but today felt heavier. Bills piled high, and her twin daughters, Emma and Chloe, needed everything from shoes to school supplies. Every morning, she'd slip out of their cozy, albeit cramped home, leaving behind a smell of burnt toast and half-drunk coffee. But she pressed on, working tirelessly at the local diner, where laughter and the aroma of grilled sandwiches mingled like sweet memories. On this dreary morning, while dashing to her car, Lisa spotted a figure on the side of the road, an older woman huddled by a weathered vehicle, her dark hair streaked with silver and a faded army jacket draped over her shoulders. Ruth, a stranded veteran with eyes that held stories of battles fought but never acknowledged, shivered at the side of the road. Something inside Lisa broke at the sight. With little hesitation, she pulled over. "Hey, do you need a ride?" she called out, her voice breaking through the rain's relentless symphony. Ruth met her gaze, surprise flickering in her tired eyes. "Are you sure? Please. Get in." With that simple invitation, Lisa opened the door to not just her car but to a sliver of connection. The girls loved listening to Ruth's stories. Her voice was a tapestry of courage and heartache. Over blueberry pancakes at the kitchen table, laughter enveloped them, warm against the harsh winter outside. Emma and Chloe assumed a daughterly affection toward Ruth, giving her the soft, nurturing role they had long wished for. Before long, their home thrived with newfound warmth, like the crackling fire that chased the chill from their bones. Moments were stitched together, board games under blankets, stories shared over steaming mugs, and late-night confidences as the family dynamic transformed. Lisa felt a vibrant spirit begin to flourish, but shadows entered the sunlit corners of their lives when Ruth received an offer they couldn't ignore: an exciting job, financial security, and the possibility of leaving. The girls overheard whispered voices one fateful night, and confusion turned to betrayal. Emma's small hands clenched Chloe's as they hid in the hallway, their hearts pounding with a rush of hurt. "But she's ours," Chloe whispered, tears brimming in her eyes. Caught between loyalty to her family and the lurking doubt of what it meant to replace their mother, Ruth wrestled with sleepless nights filled with heavy thoughts. Should she pursue the shimmering allure of the American dream or preserve the love blossoming inside their small home? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Lisa faced the turmoil in her heart, she glimpsed the true meaning of family. Love wasn't just biological, it was built, nurtured, and lived. As Ruth stood at a door that led to safety but away from love, the whole neighborhood caught wind of the heartache unfolding. They gathered to support, to question what family truly meant. In the emotional crackle of that moment, Lisa realized they were entwined in something bigger than themselves. Could they hold on to this unexpected journey of love, or would ambition tear them apart? The air felt electric with unsaid words, the weight of choices looming, waiting for the hand to fall, the beginning of a story that would alter their lives forever. The next morning dawned, gray and overcast, as if the sky were mirroring the tumult in Lisa's heart. She sat at the kitchen table, half-heartedly stirring her coffee, the steam rising up like phantoms of her worries. The girls played quietly in the living room, their eyes occasionally flicking toward the hallway, where Ruth had vanished behind her bedroom door. "Mom, do you think Ruth will leave?" Emma asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Lisa's heart twisted at the question. It was the same thought that had been haunting her since last night's confrontation. She sighed, searching for the right words. "I don't know, sweetheart. Sometimes people have to make hard choices, she finally said, but even as she spoke, doubt clung to her like rain-soaked clothes. Just then, the sound of a gentle knock echoed through the room. Ruth stepped out, her face pinched but determined. Lisa took a deep breath as her gaze met Ruth's. The burden of unspoken words hung heavily between them, and it felt as though the walls themselves were pressing in, eager for resolution. "Can we talk?" Ruth asked, her voice steady yet soft. "Of course," Lisa replied, setting her coffee down and motioning for Ruth to sit. The girls instantly perked up, slipping onto the nearby sofa, wide-eyed and curious, like flowers turning towards sunlight. As Ruth sat down, Lisa noticed the slight tremor in her hands, betraying the calm she tried to project. "I've been offered a job over in Duluth," she started, looking down at the floor, "and it could really change everything for me." Lisa's heart sank further. "But what about us?" Ruth met her gaze, her blue eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "I love you all. I've never felt so connected. It's just I don't know how to make this work. I feel like I'm stealing something that doesn't belong to me." Emma's voice chimed in, earnest and soft. "You're not stealing, Ruth. You're part of our family now." Chloe nodded vigorously, stuffing her small hands into her pockets, as if those tiny fists could somehow encapsulate the weight of her emotions. "You said you'd always be here." The room fell silent, the words hanging like a fragile thread stretched across a chasm. Ruth looked at them, and in that moment, Lisa could see the fierce battle raging in her heart. Ruth smiled faintly. "You make it so hard to think about leaving. You really do." The girls remained poised, waiting for something that felt bigger than the moment itself. Lisa sensed the tide of their journey shifting, turning from uncertain shores to wild possibilities. Maybe love was meant to be messy and complicated, she thought. "Ruth," Lisa started, her voice gaining strength, what if you took the job, but we didn't end like this? We could be in touch. You could visit, or we could come see you." Ruth's eyes widened, and Lisa's heart raced. She was offering a lifeline, but it also felt like a desperate plea, turning away from the fear of losing what they had fought so hard to build. "I don't want to be the person who walks away from the girls," Ruth replied, her tone grave, "but maybe this job is something I can't refuse. It could help us all." Tension crackled in the air, and Lisa held her breath, wondering if they could navigate this turbulent juncture without breaking apart. "What if there's another way?" Chloe asked, a hint of bravery in her small voice. "What if we all stick together and find something better right here?" Suddenly, the notion that they could fight to keep their family together sparked hope and desperation in Lisa's chest. "Can we really do that?" Lisa asked, glancing at the girls and then back to Ruth. Hope had taken root, but uncertainty loomed over them like a dark cloud. In the pause that followed, something shifted, leaving them teetering on the edge of transformation. The choices before them were daunting, but so was the possibility of love reborn. As the rain began to ease outside, Ruth took a deep breath, a new resolve slowly washing over her. "Let us figure this out together." With those words, the door to what might come creaked open, leaving them standing in the doorway of a future full of questions. Would they be brave enough to step through it together? As they faced each other, ready for both pain and possibility, a small ray of sunlight broke through the clouds outside. They were on the brink of a new chapter, but what lay beyond those embraceable shadows? The following days felt like a roller coaster, filled with a dizzying mix of hope, confusion, and determination. Lisa found herself wrapped up in preparation. She started mapping out possibilities, trips to Duluth, schedules to maintain those connections, and crafting a new routine that could embrace both the old and the new. It was as if she were meticulously piecing together a quilt of their lives, stitch by stitch. Ruth stayed close. Each morning, she was there, sharing coffee and pancakes. The girls delighted in her presence, and laughter often rang through the kitchen. Lisa watched as Emma and Chloe leaned into Ruth, their faces beaming when she spoke about her work, her dreams, and her hesitation. It was as if the love within those walls was elevating everyone, even while the uncertainty loomed. But as the sun shone brighter, so too did the complexity of their situation. Ruth kept her phone by her side, often glancing at it like a life raft, as the start date for her position loomed. The job offer was a tangible thing full of possibility, but it cut into their time together like a knife. One quiet afternoon, Lisa caught Ruth staring out the window, her gaze lost somewhere in the distance. "Are you okay?" Lisa asked, softly. Ruth sighed, turning to her with weary eyes. "I just can't shake the feeling that I'm being selfish." "No, you're not," Lisa reassured her, placing a gentle hand on Ruth's arm. "You're doing this for us too. It's all so new." A faint smile lined Ruth's lips. "I do want this. Just scared of leaving you all behind." The house buzzed with an undercurrent of tension, as the girls played in the background. They were blissfully unaware, lost in their own world of make-believe. But Lisa felt the weight pressing heavier, fear of losing the love they had cultivated and uncertainty about what that love would look like from a distance. Emma bounded into the kitchen, holding up a crayon drawing. "Look! It's us. All together." Her bright face radiated joy. Ruth knelt to admire the colorful masterpiece. "It's beautiful, Emma. I'll hang it up for inspiration when I move, okay?" Her smile faltered just a bit, but the little girl didn't notice. Chloe joined in, arms flailing excitedly. "You have to visit, Ruth. And we'll write you letters with all our news." Watching the girls hope, Lisa felt her heart swell. Maybe they could find a way to bridge the distance. But there was still something unspoken that hung between the adults. An idea that flickered in Lisa's mind, scary yet hopeful, began to take form. What if they didn't have to think of their love in terms of distance? What if love could redefine itself in unexpected ways? One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, they gathered in the living room again. All four sat in a loose circle, the warmth of shared experiences wrapping around them. "I've been thinking," Lisa started, her heart pounding, "what if we made a plan? A pact of sorts? Something that ensures we stay connected, no matter what." Hope lit up Emma and Chloe's faces. Ruth's expression shifted from worry to intrigue. "What do you mean?" "A family project," Lisa proposed. "One where we create something together, a combination of your new life and our lives here. Maybe we can even start a blog or a video journal. Document how we're all growing, living our lives together from afar. It could be a way to keep you close even when you're gone." Ruth leaned forward, her eyes sparkling. "I love that idea." The girls erupted in cheers, their laughter filling the room with electric energy. As Lisa looked at them, she couldn't help but think about the power of love, how it could mold itself to fit whatever shape life threw at them. Maybe it wouldn't be easy, but they could make it work. But just as possibilities began to weave together, Ruth's phone buzzed loudly on the table, echoing in the sudden silence. It was the call that could change everything. Would they be able to weather this storm together, despite the tides of uncertainty pushing them apart? The buzzing of Ruth's phone filled the room like a sudden storm. For a moment, it felt as if time had frozen. Lisa's heart raced. Ruth's face slipped into a mask of hesitation, an expression that sent a ripple of anxiety through Lisa. What did it mean? As Ruth picked up the phone, her fingers trembled, and the laughter that had just moments ago filled the living room vanished into a heavy silence, replaced by the tension that hung in the air. "Hello?" Ruth's voice was shaky, barely above a whisper. Lisa and the girls watched as Ruth's expression shifted, confusion and anticipation playing across her features. Lisa's palms grew clammy. What if this was the news that would change everything? Would it be confirmation of her fears, or was it the encouragement they needed? "I understand, thank you," Ruth said, her voice barely holding together. She hung up and turned to them, her eyes wide. "That was my new boss. They want me to start next week." The words hung heavily in the air. Lisa felt a tightness in her chest. Next week? The reality crashed over her like a tidal wave. The plan they had just begun to shape felt like it was slipping away. Ruth's lips quivered, the weight of her decision pressing hard on her. I thought I was ready, but I'm not sure if I can just leave. Emma and Chloe, sensing the shift, exchanged worried glances. You want to leave us, right? Chloe asked, her voice small, innocence spilling over the uncertainty in the room. No, honey, Ruth rushed to reassure them, kneeling to meet their eyes. You all mean the world to me. I want us to make this work together. But even as she said it, Lisa noticed the glint of doubt in her eyes. Maybe this is an opportunity for us to begin our pact, Lisa offered, hoping to reignite the spark of their earlier excitement. We can start making memories now, before you go. We could visit Duluth together before you start. It will be an adventure. Yes. Adventures. Emma clapped, her enthusiasm bold. Chloe bobbed her head, grinning from ear to ear. Okay, Ruth said, a hint of resolve returning to her voice. Let us make some plans. I'll look for a weekend right before I leave. As they brainstormed ideas for their last family adventure before Ruth moved, the energy began to lighten. It was all mixed with joy and the bittersweet reality of impending separation. They planned to explore parks, lakes, and even small-town diners. A part of Lisa began to believe that their love could stretch across miles, that each memory made together would be a thread tying them tighter instead of pulling them apart. Later that evening, as the girls settled into bed, Lisa and Ruth found a moment alone on the couch, the shared silence filling the space with a warmth of understanding. Ruth rested her head on Lisa's shoulder, taking a deep breath. I'm not sure if I'll be strong enough to do this, Ruth admitted, her voice fragile. What if I fail? What if I can't make it work? Lisa wrapped her arm around Ruth, holding her close. You won't be alone. We're all in this together, and if it gets hard, we'll find our way back to each other. In that moment, the weight of their love felt profound, stronger than the distance, stronger than the uncertainty. But deep down, Lisa couldn't shake the feeling that the challenges ahead might test them more than they ever anticipated. And just as they began to find comfort in each other, the doorbell rang abruptly, echoing through the quiet house. Who could that be at this hour? Ruth whispered, her eyes wide. Lisa's heart began to race again. I don't know what could be waiting for them behind the door. Was it another challenge to face, or someone who would change everything once more? The doorbell rang again, persistent and demanding, breaking the comforting silence that had just enveloped them. The sound seemed to vibrate through Lisa, raising her pulse and swirling a mix of dread and curiosity in her gut. Ruth slowly stood up, brushing her hair behind her ear. I'll check, she said, though her voice sounded more like a question than a statement. Lisa's heart beat louder as Ruth walked toward the door, each step heavy with uncertainty. Who could it be? Emma's sleepy voice floated down the hallway, as she ventured out in her pajamas, rubbing the sleep from her eyes. Chloe followed closely behind, her tiny hands clutching the sides of her nightgown as if seeking comfort from the unknown. Ruth paused at the door, her hand hovering over the knob. Maybe it's a neighbor? She suggested, though even she sounded unconvinced. Or a surprise visitor. Emma piped up, her eyes sparkling with the innocent excitement of a child unaware of the tension that filled the air. Taking a deep breath, Ruth finally turned the knob, and as the door creaked open, the faint glow from the porch light illuminated an unexpected figure. Standing there was Diane, their old friend from the neighborhood, her expression a mixture of concern and urgency. Diane. What are you doing here? Ruth exclaimed, her surprise evident. I'm so sorry to drop by unannounced. I was just in the area when I heard. Well, I guess the news travels fast. Can I come in? Diane's voice had a firmness that hinted something serious lay beneath her casual tone. Ruth stepped aside, and Diane walked in, the cool night air swirling briefly into the warmth of their home, carrying a sense of foreboding behind it. "Everything all right?" Ruth asked, her brow furrowing as she led Diane into the living room. Diane looked over at Lisa and the girls, her eyes softening. "Hi, girls. It's good to see you," she said, though her gaze lingered back on Ruth, the worry evident in her expression. "You too," but Ruth started, but Diane interrupted, her voice now grave. "I didn't want to be the one to tell you, but I think you need to know." Lisa's heart dropped. The air grew thick with tension, as if they were waiting for an impending storm to unleash. "What is it?" Ruth asked, her eyes wide and searching. "I overheard some things. There are changes coming at your old job. They've been talking about restructuring. I wouldn't want you to be blindsided." Ruth's face fell, the color draining from her cheeks. "Restructuring? What do you mean?" "It's not just little tweaks. They're considering layoffs. Your position might be at risk." The room seemed to shrink around them, breaths holding still in the weight of Diane's words. Lisa caught Emma's worried glance and pressed her lips together, suppressing her own rising panic. Ruth's hands trembled at her sides, and the dilemma hung in the air between them like a fog. "I can't believe this. I thought this was the right move." Diane leaned closer, her expression soft but firm. "That's why I came. I just wanted you to have all the information. You're too talented to get caught in a shakeup like this." In that moment, Lisa felt a surge of uncertainty crash over her. The plans they had just started to create felt more fragile now than ever. If Ruth's job was at risk, how would they navigate this separation? The girls stood by, confused, not fully grasping the shifting trajectory of their family's life. "Mom?" Chloe finally asked, eyes wide with worry. "Is everything okay?" Ruth knelt down in front of her girls, her hands shaking a little as she took their small faces into her hands. "I don't know yet, sweethearts. But whatever happens, we'll figure it out together, right?" The weight of the unknown loomed over them all, carving knots of fear in Lisa's stomach. And just when Lisa thought they might sink under the uncertainty, Diane spoke again, her voice sharper, like a knife cutting through the confusion. "Ruth, have you considered working with me instead? My team has an opening." Ruth looked up at Diane, a flicker of hope sparking in her eyes. Could this change lead to an unexpected opportunity? Or would it only complicate their already fragile world? The room fell silent as Ruth absorbed Diane's offer. The glimmers of hope danced in her eyes, but they were shaded with anxiety. "I don't know, Diane. I haven't worked in that field for years, not since." She let the thought trail off, the weight of her past hovering between them. Diane nodded, understanding. "I get it. But this could be a chance to restart, to redirect the unfolding chaos. You've always had skills that would shine in my corner of the world." Ruth looked into Diane's eyes, searching for reassurance. "What if I mess up? What if I can't do it?" Before Diane could respond, Emma piped up, "Mom, you can do anything. Remember when you taught me to ride a bike? You said just keep pedaling, and you'll find your balance." Ruth couldn't help but smile at her daughter's innocent encouragement. "That was a long time ago, Emma, but it's still true, right?" Emma pressed on, her little hands on her hips. "Yeah, I suppose it is," Ruth said softly, fighting against her swirling emotions. Chloe, still clutching her nightgown, chimed in, "And Aunt Diane isn't just a neighbor. She's a superhero. Right, Aunt Diane?" Diane laughed, the tension lifting just a little. "You know it. But really, Ruth, this job could give you a fresh start, especially right now." She glanced around the room, making sure the girls were engaged. "You both could help out in ways you wouldn't even think of. This could be teamwork, and think of the benefits too." As Diane spoke, Lisa couldn't shake the unease settling in her stomach. Was this job the answer they needed or merely a distraction? What will we do if I take this job? Ruth raised her brows, her voice soft with worry. The girls need stability, this upheaval may be too much for them. Sometimes, change is what we need most, Diane insisted. It won't be easy, but we're all here together. Just think it could work. You could change everything. Ruth looked around the room, her hands still trembling at her side. She caught Lisa's gaze, both seeking and offering comfort. The weight of Ruth's uncertainty grew heavier, the idea of jumping into something new while trying to shield her daughters from fear was daunting. Mommy? Emma circled back, her smaller voice threading through the tense atmosphere again. What if it's just the start of super cool things? Lisa smiled at her daughter, struggling to hide her own worries. She's right, sometimes we have to step into the unknown to find great things ahead. The air shimmered with a mix of anticipation and dread. Could this opportunity for Ruth mean the beginning of something wonderful? Or were they all just tying themselves to expectations that could crash at any moment? Ruth shrugged, a tentative smile beginning to break through her anxiety. Okay, maybe I should at least consider it. I'll think about it, Diane. Diane smiled wider, relief flooding her face. That's all I ask. Just give it a second thought. Just then, the stillness was interrupted by the shrill sound of a phone ringing from deep within the house. A cold chill ran through Lisa. Who could it be at this hour? The girls shifted on their feet, concern spreading across their faces once more. In that moment, anticipation hung in the air again, pure uncertainty swirling like a storm cloud. Should I answer it? Ruth asked, glancing toward the sound, dread creeping back into her voice. The question lingered, leaving everyone wondering would this call bring clarity or complicate their fragile night even further? The phone rang again, a jarring sound that sliced through the tension like a knife. Ruth glanced at the girls, their eyes wide with worry, before she took a hesitant step toward the phone. It felt as if the world had paused a heavy moment, pregnant with possibility and fear. Just be careful, Diane urged softly, her eyes not leaving Ruth's face. With a steadying breath, Ruth picked up the receiver. Hello? Her voice was barely above a whisper, echoing the fluttering in her chest. Silence on the other end turned into a crackling voice. Ruth, it's me, Brad. Her heart dropped. Brad. The name wove an intricate tapestry of memories both cherished and painful. She hadn't heard from him in years. The broken pieces of her past suddenly surged to the surface, colliding with her present uncertainties. Brad? Ruth asked, her voice trembling. What do you want? Look, it's important. Can we meet? I need to explain, he said, urgency lacing every word. Meet? Why now? She felt her pulse quicken, her mind racing through a whirlwind of doubts. Was this about their past? Or were there bigger issues lurking in the shadows? Please, just trust me. I can't discuss this over the phone, he insisted, and for a fleeting moment, a hint of vulnerability slipped through his bravado. Ruth could feel Diane's eyes on her, searching for a cue, weighing the implications of the conversation she was having. The girls shifted again, sensing the shift in their mother's demeanor. Emma's tiny voice broke through, Mommy? Who is it? Ruth hesitated, caught between the past and what lay ahead. It's someone from a long time ago, she said finally, trying to keep her tone neutral for her daughter's sake. Diane stepped closer. Ruth, you don't have to do this if you don't want to. Remember, you're in charge of what happens next. Ruth, Brad said again, his voice softer now, a crack of something genuine beneath the desperation. I need to see you. There's so much to talk about. Something flared inside her, a mix of indignation and curiosity. Why now, Brad? Why after all this time? I made mistakes, he admitted. But I want to explain. I can't let you walk away thinking I didn't care. Ruth felt the wall she had built around her heart begin to tremble, and a whirlwind of emotions rushed in. Yet, the thought of her girls, the stability they needed, held her rooted to the ground. "I can't do this right now. Just give me an hour." "Please," Brad pressed. "Then, if you want me out of your life for good, I'll walk away." The weight of his words settled heavily in her chest. What did she want? Would seeing him mean opening old wounds, or could it offer closure? She glanced at her daughters, their innocence reminding her of the choices that lay ahead. "Fine," she said, resolve edging into her voice. "But just for an hour." "Thank you," he breathed, a tremor of relief evident on the other end, before the call ended, leaving Ruth feeling more untethered than before. She hung up the phone and turned slowly to Diane, who wore a knowing expression. "You okay?" she asked cautiously. Ruth nodded, though uncertainty churned in her gut. I don't know." Emma and Chloe watched, wide-eyed, waiting for their mom's next move. "What now?" Emma ventured, stepping closer, sensing the dramatic shift in their world. Ruth glanced out the window, the night stretching endlessly before her, infused with unknowns. "I guess we wait," she said, heart racing for different reasons now. Would this meeting rewrite her narrative or unravel everything she fought to build? Hope flickered alongside apprehension, leaving her hanging on a precipice. Just then, a soft knock at the door broke through her thoughts, and her heart skipped a beat. Who could it be now? With breath suspended in her chest, she glanced at Diane, who nodded encouragingly. "Just take it one step at a time." Ruth stepped closer to the door, the uncertainty coiling tighter than before. Who, or what, awaited her on the other side? Ruth took a deep breath, her hand hovering above the doorknob. The soft knock echoed in her head like the rhythmic drum of her anxieties. She briefly glanced back at Diane, who offered a reassuring smile but held tension in her shoulders. Emma and Chloe looked expectantly at Ruth, their wide, innocent eyes glimmering with confusion, the shadows of the past now looming like ghosts in the corner of the living room. With a flick of her wrist, she turned the knob and pulled the door open. Standing there was a figure cloaked in shadows, their features etched against the dim porch light. Her heart raced as she took in the shape in front of her. It was a man tall, with broad shoulders that drew her eye despite the uncertainty hanging in the air. "Ruth," the man said softly, his voice unmistakably familiar. "Brad." The name spilled from her lips like a confession, and she immediately braced herself for whatever awaited her. The last time they had seen each other felt like lifetimes ago, so much had changed, yet here he was standing before her, a blast from the past. "Can I come in?" he asked, his expression unreadable. Behind him, the street lights cast fleeting shadows across his face, illuminating the worry etched around his tired eyes. Ruth hesitated, glancing back at the girls. Just for a minute, she whispered almost to herself, before stepping aside to let him in. As he walked past her, the warmth of his presence brushed against her, stirring old feelings she thought long buried. The door clicked shut behind them, sealing them if only for an hour in this fragile moment. Brad shifted nervously. "I know this is awkward. I didn't mean to drop back into your life like this, but I had to come." His voice trembled slightly, and Ruth felt a flicker of sympathy, but it was overshadowed by her defenses. "What's so important that you couldn't just call?" He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous gesture that mirrored the tumult within her. "It's about Anna." At the mention of her name, a rush of emotions cascaded through Ruth. Anna had been the glue holding them together once, their shared dreams, laughter, and a future that had felt intact. Now, the weight of that name hung heavily between them, a chilling reminder of all they had lost. "What about her?" Ruth asked, her tone icy despite the heat emanating from her confusion. She's been looking for you, Ruth," Brad said softly, meeting her gaze with intensity. "She needs you." Ruth's heart began to race again, this time with a mixture of disbelief and hope. "Need me? What do you mean? I thought I know." We broke apart, and you needed to move on. But she has questions. She needs closure, just like I do, Brad said, his voice earnest. We both do. A silence fell, thick and palpable, as each word settled in. Ruth's mind raced. Did she really want to open this chapter again? Could she face the years of hurt that were now resurfacing? Emma and Chloe quietly observed from the living room, their curiosity unmistakable. Ruth felt the weight of their innocent eyes, reminding her of her role as their protector. I can't just drop everything for you two, she said finally, her words shaking like leaves in the wind. What about my life now? My girls? Everything I've worked for? Brad took a step closer, desperation creeping into his voice. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't crucial. I understand your hesitation. But this could change everything for all of us, for Anna, for you. You deserve answers. And, maybe you still have a chance to reclaim something precious. A wave of conflicting emotions washed over her. Would the chance for healing ultimately shatter the fragile world she had built? Or could it be the bridge back to everything she once cherished? Before she could respond, Chloe tugged on her sleeve. Mommy, who is he? Is he going to help us? Ruth knelt down to meet her daughter's concerned gaze, feeling the gravity of the moment weigh heavily upon them all. Their world felt at stake, and she was the one holding the fragile strings. As she looked back at Brad, anticipation mixing with dread, she realized this was only the beginning. Tell me everything, she finally said, her heart pounding as she opened the door to her past once more. Could this choice lead to a renewed family, or would it wreak havoc on the life she had fought to build? The path ahead lay obscured, and nothing could prepare her for what was about to unfold. Ruth shifted her weight from one foot to the other, feeling the pressure of Brad's gaze, still intense and searching. The room was silent except for the faint ticking of the old clock on the wall and her girl's soft breathing. A sense of urgency swept over her, tightening the knot in her stomach. Brad took a deep breath as if steeling himself. Anna's been through a lot, Ruth. After everything, she just wants to see you. She thinks you need to talk. And she's right. Do you really think I want to dive back into that mess? Ruth asked, her voice wavering. Memories flashed of happy moments marred by heartbreak, joy overshadowed by loss. It's not just about the past anymore, he replied, voice low and steady. It's about moving forward. Don't you want to know why she's been looking for you? Ruth glanced sideways at Emma and Chloe. Their innocent faces watched her like she was about to make a life-altering decision. Did she even have the right to consider putting them in the middle of her unresolved feelings? What if I open this door and everything falls apart again? Ruth's voice trembled. We've built a new life. I don't want to risk that, not for anyone. Brad stepped a fraction closer, a flicker of pain crossing his features. I wouldn't want you to either. I just think it has to be addressed. Don't you feel it? The unfinished business? Ruth's throat tightened. She nodded slowly, refusing to meet his eyes, not wanting to acknowledge the truth he laid bare. Yes, a part of her did feel it, the yearning for closure, for understanding. But another part screamed to keep everything as it was, safe, familiar. Mommy? Chloe's sweet voice broke through her conflicted thoughts, bringing her back. Is he gonna help us find Anna? Ruth's heart wrenched at her daughter's innocent question. How could she explain what was at stake? Instead, she wrapped her arms around both girls, pulling them close as if to shield their little hearts from the storm raging inside her. I don't know yet, sweet pea, she whispered, feeling Chloe's warmth fill the empty spaces in her heart. But listen, I'll figure it out. I promise. Silence lingered in the air, thick with unspoken tension. I need to know more, she finally said, pulling away slightly, her voice steadier now. What has happened with Anna? Why now? Brad visibly relaxed, a flicker of hope breaking through his anxious facade. It's hard to explain, he said, running a hand over his stubbled chin. But she's feeling lost and confused. The more time that passes, the more she realizes how much she misses you, the conversations, the support. She's been trying to reach out, to understand. And honestly, so have I. Why can't she just reach out herself? Ruth asked, forcing herself to keep her tone neutral. Anger welled within her. Why should she be the one to reconcile after all this time? She's afraid, Brad said, his voice filled with urgency. Afraid you won't want anything to do with her after everything. You know how hard it is to confront the past. But it's not just about her, there's something deeper for both of us. We need your help to make sense of it all. Ruth felt herself sway under the weight of his words. The vulnerability in his voice stirred something within her: fear, regret, a flicker of longing that threatened to consume her. Could they really fix what had been broken? Please, Ruth, he pleaded softly, talk to her. Just give her a chance. You'll see, this could be the way for all of us to heal. You know that. Ruth regarded him, the old feeling simmering just beneath the surface. It was breathtaking and terrifying all at once. And what if I can't? What if it hurts more? Brad stepped closer still, his eyes searching hers. Then we face it together. You're not alone in this, not anymore. A spark of something familiar ignited in her heart, but it was quickly snuffed out by doubt. Before she could form a response, Chloe tugged on her sleeve again. Mommy, are you going to make him go away? I don't want him to leave. Ruth knelt to meet her eyes and, in that moment, felt the full weight of her choices. It was time to either face the truth or keep running from it. Would she take a step toward the very thing she feared most? I don't know, Ruth whispered, the battle within herself raging on. But I'm not ready to let go of what I have now. Behind her, Brad hung on her words, his own vulnerability evident. Silence draped over them for a moment, then she inhaled deeply, a decision lingering in the air between them. Okay, Ruth finally said, her voice breaking the stillness. Let us talk. But you better be ready to tell me everything. As hope shimmered in Brad's eyes, Ruth felt the ground shift beneath her. She had opened the door, let the past step in. What had she really just invited back into her life? Little did she know, this was just the beginning of uncovering truths she had long buried, and some secrets were waiting just beyond this moment that would shake them all to their cores. Would she be ready for what lay ahead? Ruth felt a surge of emotions wash over her as she laid the foundation for a conversation that could redefine her reality. The weight of Brad's presence in her kitchen felt heavy, almost suffocating, but it also sparked a flicker of curiosity about Anna, about the past, and what their future could look like if she decided to open herself up. As she invited him to sit, the room settled into an uneasy quiet, amplifying their breaths and heartbeats like thunderous echoes. Emma and Chloe shuffled closer, their innocent curiosity lingering in the air like a charged whisper. Okay, let us start from the top, Ruth said, taking a deep breath. Why now? Why after all these years? Brad leaned forward, his hands cradled between his knees, eyes reflecting vulnerabilities long hidden. Anna's been through a lot. She's been struggling with her identity, and she feels she's missing a part of herself, part of her that you represent. She thinks reconnecting could help her heal. Just like you. Ruth frowned slightly. And you think this is the solution? Bringing me into a maelstrom of feelings after all this time? Honestly? Brad scratched his head, grappling for words. It's complicated. But what I do know is it's important. She needs you. I need you too, Ruth. We both made mistakes, but I believe we can find a way to heal together. The girls exchanged glances, their young faces brimming with confusion but soaring with hope at the prospect of a family united. It twisted in Ruth's chest, the ache of yearning battling against the fear of vulnerability. Mom, I want to help Anna, Chloe piped up innocently, her small eyes gauging her mother. Maybe it will make her happy like we are. Ruth's gaze fell upon her daughters, their expressions filled with innocence and belief. The warmth in their little hearts brought her back to a time when love felt uncomplicated and straightforward, a feeling she desperately wanted to reclaim. "You girls might be right," she murmured, bitterness mingling with hope in her heart. "Let us meet," Ruth said slowly, her voice steadying as her mind cleared. "But this isn't just about your closure, Brad. I need something too. I need assurance that our connection, what I have with my girls, isn't jeopardized or lost in this process." "Absolutely," he nodded earnestly. "I'll do whatever it takes to rebuild that trust." Tension lifted a fraction, but still hung thickly in the air. Ruth felt her grip tighten on the thread of courage she was finding, ready to lighten the weight of uncertainty that lay ahead. They could drive each other crazy, but if there was a chance for growth, she would take it. "Maybe it's also about finding out if a fresh start is possible," Ruth added, glancing at her daughters, "for all of us." The clock ticked loudly, each second booming like a heartbeat, and the idea that they could perhaps close one chapter while mending sides of themselves left open filled the small room. "Why don't we start small?" Emma suggested, her enthusiasm bubbling over despite the heavy conversation. "We can have family dinner. Like old times." Ruth chuckled, her heart warmed by Emma's idea, but before she could answer, Chloe jumped up. "Yeah. And we can bake cookies. We can surprise Anna with those too." Brad looked at the girls, his heart softening. "I think that sounds perfect. It's a good way to reconnect over something simple, something to ease the tension." As laughter and squeals erupted from the girls, Ruth felt a warmth spreading through her like the first rays of spring breaking the cold of winter. Despite the uncertainty of what lay ahead, the night felt right. "Okay, let us do it," she echoed, excitement rising within her. "But I need to prepare myself for everything else. I'm not promising anything to Anna except a chance to talk." "Fair enough," Brad replied, admiration swimming in his eyes. Suddenly, the kitchen was filled with plans, excitement bubbling over like so many pots on a stove. Laughter mingled with the sounds of ingredient lists being drafted, cookies waiting to be made, and the girls ran through the next countless days of mismatched adventures. For the first time in a long time, Ruth felt hope swirling around them. As the kitchen filled with the aroma of freshly baked cookies days later, Ruth waited eagerly for Anna's arrival, her heart simultaneously racing and sinking. She had opened her heart to the possibility of reconciliation, but would it really bring healing, or would it just elevate the complexities that had woven their lives together in such chaos? Finally, the doorbell rang, and everything seemed to still. With her daughters giddy with excitement, Ruth took a deep breath and stepped towards the door. "Ready?" she whispered to herself, gripping the handle tightly. With a steadying pull, she opened the door. Standing there was Anna. A mixture of old wounds and new beginnings churned within, lighting a path forward. In that doorway, the past shook hands with the future. Would they be able to transform this bond and redefine what family meant? As she gazed into her daughter's eyes, she felt a rush of warmth, the sensation of a new chapter waiting to be written together, one of healing, of connection, and of love reborn. Now is the moment to take action. Don't wait. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. I want to know your reactions and feelings about this ending. Comment below. And remember, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Your support matters. Be a true fan.